Hey guys, we have a lot to talk about. Welcome back to my channel for another book video. Oh boy. Okay, so this is gonna be my May wrap-up. It's also like nearly 5 o'clock, so you might hear more cars in the background than normal, and I do apologize. Cons to living next to the highway. But we're gonna talk about the 14 books I finished and then some. Okay? So in the month of May, I managed to read 14 books, or finish 14 books. The first book that I read this month was a carryover that I genuinely was like, what's the point? Why finish? Why finish? But I finally decided to just bite the bullet and finish the last 20% of 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. So disappointed. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but just know that I am so disappointed, Peter Swanson. I vouched for every value break. I really enjoyed it as an experience. Yes, I might have changed my rating under some peer pressure from the live show because no one else really liked it, but Peter Swanson, don't hold that against me with your new releases. 9 Lives was a disappointment. So you will probably see it at the end of the year when I talk about all the books that I've read, but oh boy, oh boy. I did finish it just to say I finished it. I gave it 2 stars, and my review is The Paris Apartment Part 2. For the beginning of the month, my audiobooks were taken, so I had a limited selection, but I still wanted to be reading something over the weeks, so that 1, my weekly vlogs, there would be some kind of book involved, and 2, when I'm at work, I don't always want to listen to music. I really enjoy listening to audiobooks, especially on really slow days where the workload and the client load is small. But also, there's a lot going on. May was a good month for readathons, okay? And the first one that I truly participated in was the Smut Den. 72 hours in the Smut Den. As a person who doesn't read a whole lot of smut, I was surprised with myself for enjoying it. The first book that I read was Life After Love by Imogen Markwell Tweed. This is a male-male romance novella of a man who moves into his first apartment, and it's haunted. And it's haunted by a man, and they fall in love, and then he becomes human, and then dies again. It's like a whole adventure in a very short amount of time. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. I never felt extremely attached to the characters, but at the same time, it was a sweet romance. Now, I'm not one to speak on the conversations happening around women writing male-male romances. It is not my place, but I did enjoy it, but I can't speak on if this was portrayed well or not. Another issue that I read some people having in the reviews was that the magic system just wasn't realistic enough for them. When someone's using dark magic, it's not something that I'm looking for realism with, so that didn't bother me, but that might be something that bothers you if you wanted to pick this up. And the other book that I read for the Smut Den was The Sweetest, Oblivion by Daniel Laurie. This is smut. This is, I know it's adult, but I don't know if the characters are super adult. I want to say they're maybe young adult, college, right out of high school kind of thing. But oh boy, is this book horny. And it's a mafia romance, so it's a little dark. It's got a lot going on. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Can I tell you most of the plot? Not really. It's an arranged marriage after some scandals with her and her sister. It's a rival mafia gang romance. It's a lot. It's a lot of tropes, but it was overall pretty good. The characters read a little bit on the young side, but it didn't bother me too much, and it was just overall a very fun one-sitting listen. And then following the high, I listened to another Imogen Maxwell Tweed book, and I listened to Peaches and Honey at Work, which is another male-male romance, but without the smut. And this is simply just two neighbors finding a friendship and then a relationship, and then there's also a like sub plot line of a stepson, which I really enjoyed that conversation of like the stepson who loves his stepdad even though there's no blood relation and like wants to live with him and so on. And then there's also the plot of this pie or just baking competition in general that they're both entering. So fun, so fun. It was very cute. Another 3 stars. I didn't feel any like strong feelings towards it, but I didn't dislike it either. The next book that I listened to at work was House Fires by Connor Franta, narrated by Connor Franta. Connor Franta is a YouTuber. I'm pretty sure he still uploads videos. And I remember watching him when I was in, I think, middle school. And so I was already familiar with him. I did once upon a time have a little bit of a crush on him before like I knew he was gay. You know, that just happens sometimes, right? Like that's just like the definition of middle school, right? Falling for internet gay boys. But yeah, he's very funny, and this is a poetry book, memoir style about his life and being gay and what it's like. And I'm not a big poetry person. Like, I love poetry, but sometimes I don't like understand all poetry. But I really enjoyed his perspectives of life and just how he communicates. It's very beautiful. I gave this 4 stars. I really recommend and really enjoyed it. I will definitely be checking out, I think he has 2 other poetry books before this, so I'll definitely be checking those out. Another continuation of a book I was reading for a very long time, like a way too long of a time. Bluets by Maggie Nelson. I have so many mixed feelings with this poetry collection. It's not a collection, it is a poem. It is a numbered poem. So it goes 1 to like 200 and something. And it's quoting other people about the color blue. It's quoting life and just her relationship with an ex that she's getting over. She touches on a friend that she has that's recently paralyzed. She talks about depression and anxiety and just a whole lot of mental health. And at times I loved this poetry book. There were so many beautiful lines that I was just like, yes, you get me, I get you, this is so relatable, this is so real. And then other times I was like, I'm so sick of reading this. It was so hot and cold for me. I couldn't. Some days I was like, yeah, I want to pick this up, I want to read it. And other days I was like, I absolutely cannot get myself to read this book any longer. I will rip my eyes out. It was just like a very long experience. I think if I sat down and just read this in one sitting, I wouldn't have so many reactions to it. But because I drew it out for so long, I think I read this over a course of like a month almost, maybe a little less. It took me so long, and I'm going through my own like mental journey along the way. So like some days I was on like a good terms with it and bad terms just based off how I personally was feeling. It was a lot. I don't think I'll revisit this, but I really enjoyed like what she had to say, especially about the color blue, which does happen to be my favorite color too. Like a lot of people. The next book that I read, one of the few that I physically read, was the Siren, it's not the Siren Queen, it's just Siren Queen by Nevo. This was my first Nevo, and I have a whole vlog where I read this. Read this during the 48-hour Bookopoly readathon, Bookopolython. This took me way too long to read. I think I spent 16-ish hours with a lot of stuff in between, but like I drew it out over 16 hours with interruptions and so on. I enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars, but I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. This is a very interesting book that I won't go into too much details. If you really want full thoughts, like, watch the video. I'm sorry, it's kind of long, but I go in way more depth throughout the entire reading experience and I come back to it. This is a book that I've thought about, and like, although the plot at times has like completely escaped me, I still think about the book. The writing, is so beautiful. Such a beautiful story. The main character is so annoying, but the side characters almost had me in tears. This was just a journey of a book, but I enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars. And that's that. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. There's so much I could say, but I think I'll just leave it at that. And the other book that I read for that same vlog was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie Ho. Axie O. I do that every time, I'm so sorry. Axie O. This is a Korean legend retelling, retelling, and I enjoyed it. I gave this 4 stars. I think that this is a beautiful, magical realm. I love the spirit realm so much. I think if you like Spirited Away, it's got a lot of those vibes. I do think it could have gone a little bit further into the world building and just like the overall explanation of the world, kind of like Caraval, the way that Stephanie Garber really like talks about the market and the food and so on. I think that could have used a little bit more of that. I also wish that this had a little bit more underwater setting, seeing as it's like about the sea god and it's underwater. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I really liked the characters and the dynamic of how the spirit world works. The ending was good. Here's the thing. The plot twist never surprised me. I never was like, ooh, didn't see that coming. But I know that this reads for a little bit younger. I feel like I'm a little more advanced with my fantasy over this, but I really enjoyed this. I just enjoyed it. Okay, I liked it. This is following our main character, Mina, and she basically sacrifices herself to save her brother and this girl in the village that her brother is kind of infatuated with. And she sacrifices herself to the sea god to become the next bride, to hopefully appease the god and save the village from constant storms every year. And it's basically just her journey in the spirit world, finding love and kicking butt and saving the world. And I really enjoyed it. I think it's a very simple story. It's what you expect it to be. There's nothing shocking or surprising about it, but it is very sweet, and if you like a familial story, there is so much of that with the strength and the bonds of the friendship. I liked it. The next book that I listened to was The Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. And I'm going to be entirely honest with y'all. I do not remember a whole lot. I don't remember really what was going on in this book. I don't remember any of the characters. This wasn't a very standout book to me. I gave it 3 stars from when I finished the book. I thought it was fine. I didn't feel crazy about it. I remember I enjoyed the plot, and what I do remember of it is that we're following our main character and she becomes the queen or something after her father's death. And everyone believes that he died peacefully, that it was just an accidental death, like natural causes. And over time, she's like, no, he was murdered and I'm going to prove it, and gets a criminal to help her in the case and be like her attorney or something. It was a little bizarre. This was Joan He's debut novel, and I have The Ones We're Meant to Find over there. And I know she has a duology, I believe, but yeah, this one wasn't super impressive, and it hasn't made me want to pick up her other books as much. But I do like the vibes. I believe it's a Chinese legend or Chinese influence, so I do enjoy the vibes. But yeah, it wasn't very standout to me. I didn't quite fall in love. Okay, everybody. The woman of the hour. I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and oh my god, guys, I loved it. I loved it. I gave this 4.5. There was a part in like the middle end that I was just like, you're losing me a little bit. Like, this isn't, it's not it. It's not what I was wanting. It was just that tiny little portion that I was just like so close to being 5-star. And as well as the after, I don't remember what it was called. I don't think it was an essay, but it was like, oh, it was like a letter to this convenience store. That also kind of like put me off, so I try not to rate it based off of that, because I didn't know how I felt with like the relationship with the convenience store being so real. But with that said, wow, what a slice of life story. This is so slow, and I don't know how to talk about it. It's basically following this girl who in college starts working at this brand new convenience store right before it opens, and that is her job. That is her. She is a convenience store worker. That is her piece of this capitalist society. She is the cog at the convenience store, and she knows the sounds. It is her world. It's her everything. And I loved that. I loved it so much. I genuinely wish there was more of it. And that is why the like middle-ish end parts, I was just like, I know how to, like, it, words. I don't know how to talk about this book. I'm sorry. I understand like why we needed that, because at the end, like, it comes full circle. It helps the plot. But I genuinely just wanted to like hear her talk about like her love of working at the convenience store and how she picks up on these cues of society. I just thought it was so fascinating. I don't know if there's confirmation out there, but the main character does, at least to me, and I'm not one to diagnose or make statements on this, but I did feel a little bit like there was a neurodivergent aspect to her, just the way that she thinks and acts, and I just thought that was really interesting. Again, don't know if that was confirmed. Do not quote me. Don't ask me for confirmation. I can't give it. But I really enjoyed this so much. I genuinely, there's no chapter breaks or anything. I just was like, I could read this forever. I cannot wait to have a physical copy and like read it again. This was amazing. The next books that I read were for my Buzzwordathon for April and May, since I had to combine them. That vlog is out and up. You guys can totally check it out and watch that if you want more full thoughts throughout. But the first one that I read for that was All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. This was the Literally Dead book club pick for April. So I finally got around to reading this and watching the live show. Everybody loved it in the live show. There were very few complaints. I also enjoyed this. I gave it a 3.5, but rated it 3 on Goodreads. Is that completely fair? I don't know. I'm not sure if... So here's the thing. I think this book is good. I do not think this book was quite for me. I'm not the biggest mystery thriller fan. I don't necessarily love the books where people are trying to investigate something like murder is happening instead of just going to the police. Like, I understand that for Black Americans, like, they might have trauma with the police. They might have prejudices. There's a lot of issues between the Black Lives Matter movement is because of this whole conversation. So I understand why characters don't want to go to the police. I totally get it, but at the same time, you are a lawyer girl, and you are smarter than this. You are so smart. Even if you don't go to the police, go to the news. Like, that's just how I felt most of the book, but it did get my thrills up. My heart was racing at some parts. I was really intrigued and engaged in the story throughout. I was so upset when part 2 came, and I was like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it, Wanda. Wanda M. Morris is gonna do that to me right now, isn't she? And then she did it, and I was like, okay. And then we continued on with the story. I had a great experience listening to it. I would definitely recommend it. This is more of a legal mystery thriller. We're following our main character, Elise, and she's an attorney for this trucking company, I believe. That part I wasn't super clear on. And basically, she's having an affair with her boss, and her boss is dead in his office the morning that she goes in to meet with him. And she doesn't tell the police. She scurries on downstairs, and she's like, nope, out of sight, out of mind. And it's just following the journey, the conspiracies behind it, the plot, why it's happened, what's going on, more murders. It's everything you expect it to be, but like so much more. She, the author, is also some kind of attorney, and she's writing the prequel based on another character in the book, which I am excited for. I think it takes place in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement, so I am intrigued for that. I think that'll be interesting. And these next two books I'll just kind of talk about together. I read Nevo's first two books in her novella series, The Empress of Salt and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain. These are following the same main character, Chai, they them pronouns. They're a cleric, and basically traveling the world, the lands, to take history. The cleric's jobs are to remember history and pass it down to their kids and keep it in books and so on and so forth. They typically have a companion of some sort. Chai's companion was a magpie or some type of bird. Magpies came up a lot this month. And so basically in the first book we are following Chai as they visit this house where Rabbit is living, and Rabbit tells the story of the Empress of Salt and Fortune. I was really captivated with this story. I was really engaged. I thought the writing was beautiful. Again, the very short novellas, but it's just like a, let me sit you down and tell you a story. It's grandma telling you a story, and you're just there relaxed. Like, it's nothing insane, but you just have a good time. And it's so beautiful. And it's a similar premise in the second book, where it's a group of hungry tigers correcting Chai throughout the story they're telling of the history, what they believed. And the tigers are correcting it along the way before deciding to consume. But luckily that's not what happens. The third book is coming out in October, and I'm quite excited for it to see how it goes. I think there's officially going to be a fourth book as well. This is just like nice and comforting. You know, like it's not a thriller. It's not anything. It's just like nice to listen to and read, because you're just kind of like being told a story. And that's like the best way I can describe it, is you're just relaxed and having a good time. I was doing art while listening, and it was a fantastic experience. So I gave The Empress of Salt and Fortune 4 stars, and I gave When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain 3 stars. I just preferred the first one more. I thought it was prettier, and I liked the characters more. Both of these also have pretty good like LGBTQIA plus rep, so if you're looking for something this month for Pride Month, there you go. And then we have Jade, Fire, Gold by June Ciel Tan. I rather enjoyed this. This is the Fairy Loot edition. She chunky though. This was a big book. I listened primarily to the audiobook to get through this. This is following our two main characters, and basically she has her destiny. She's really more so running away. She has magical powers, which are typically outlawed, but she's trying to keep the woman who raised her safe while she's sick, and so she's running away. And then on the other hand, you have our main character, and he is supposed to be dead, and he's got his own journey. His goal in life is to kill the life stealer, which happens to be her, and their paths cross, and then there's some fantasy romance. It's a whole journey. I enjoyed it. I think it was a little long. I think it's funny when fantasy just like throws in some like random romance tropes, even though like nothing really comes of it, but the one bed trope was in here and I just thought it was funny. This definitely feels like a fantasy book hitting the targets for all the tropes, like trying to get them in there to check it off. And that part I didn't love quite as much, but overall still enjoyable, still a good read. I ended up just giving it 3 stars, but it was fun. So those are my thoughts there. Okay, so those are the 14 books that I finished and read in May. But I have more books to just hopefully quickly talk about. The Picture of Dorian Gray. Fuck this book. I have almost finished it so many times, and I just fall asleep almost every time. So It's a struggle bus, but we've made it further than I've ever made it. Chapter 13, page 85 of 123. We're gonna get it done, but I'm taking credit for how much of this I've actually read this month, so that's happening. And as for these three, I also began, these were officially on the TBR that I didn't quite finish. The Wrath and the Dawn, I got over 50%. I am really loving this, but I just haven't had the time to pick it back up. Okay, we should talk about this while we're here. I am in such a strange reading mood where I want to pick up books, read the first 200 pages, like read half of it, and then put it down and pick up something else. I don't know why I'm doing this right now. I'm in the middle of so many books because of it. I've been in this mood for a while. I'm just having a really hard time finishing books. I just want to start them and then leave them there. I don't know why. We're working on it, I promise. But I'm loving The Wrath and the Dawn. We're following our main character, Shazi, and I love her. I love her ambition, her drive, her like lack of fear almost. She basically volunteers to marry this king, caliph, and starts telling him a story the night she's supposed to die, and then he keeps her around, and then she stays around, and it's basically her wanting him dead, but him using her for like his own gains. He might have some feelings, I don't know. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I literally put it down right before like the drama was gonna happen. I don't know why I'm like this, but I'm so excited to finish. The other one that I'm 50% of the way through is Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. Time travel kids whose families got murdered by monster hunters because they are monsters who steal time from humans to time travel. There's the plot of the book. That's it. Again, I'm 50% through. I'm hoping to finish this soon, which is why I'm mentioning it here, just so you guys know what's going on with my reading. But yeah, I am intrigued to finish this. I'm not falling in love with it. I don't know if time travel is quite for me, because I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it, but I love books that are like set in modern times, have modern technology, but can go back into the roaring 20s and have a good time. So we will see where this goes. It's not at all what I thought it would be going into it, so I have no clue where it could go from here. And finally, the last book that I am a part way through. This one I'm only 25% of the way through, but this is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I'm enjoying it, but again, like, it's a chunker. I'm still too early on to say whether or not I love it, but I'm throwing it out there that I did start it, and I will be finishing this in June. I don't know why I decided to tell you guys about this, because I don't actually know what the plot is, besides, like, the daughter of the moon goddess is, like, on the run, because she's not supposed to be born, and so now she's, like, the maid or something to this nobleman of some sort. That's what I know. So, that's that. And then as for the final three books I'm going to just quickly talk about, these are the books that I had on my TBR officially. Thank God I'm not doing a game right now. And I haven't finished or started them really. So first we have Confessions by Kane and Monaco. The live show's literally like Sunday. I gotta get going on this. But I will be finishing this very soon, but it will be in June. So I'm not counting it or anything for May, but I wanted to just let you know. I will be reading this very soon. It'll probably be in the vlog after this video, so that's great. And then for Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, I'm 4%. I literally like barely started this. So far so fine. Picked up the audiobook to read along with, and all I know is that we're like very in the beginnings of the after stage. Like, we know the police are investigating the man who I suppose held them hostage in an apartment showing. I don't know, but didn't read it, hoping to get to it. And the final book that I didn't read and hoping to get to would be Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nang. I put this on my TBR for 2 months now, and I have yet to pick it up besides the first chapter. So I don't know what that says about me. I'm just not feeling a strong pull to pick it up right now. I don't know if that means I should stop trying to pick it up, or if it's because it's the middle of a book and I know that like I have the sequel or the finale, third book, and I haven't been hearing as fantastic things. So I don't know. And then actually, finally, before we wrap this video up, I finished really recently, finally, Sour Candy by Keilan Patrick Burke. This is a book I've been reading for quite a while, like 2 weeks or something, and I primarily finished it in May, but I had like 40 pages left in June. So I finished it, I wrapped it up before this video, and I wanted to quickly talk about it because, wow, 4 stars. So eerie. This book is so eerie. We are following Phil, and he and his girlfriend are having like the time of their life. It's the weekend. He doesn't have to work. They're gonna just lounge. They're gonna eat some candy and chocolate and chips and just watch TV and get it on all weekend and living their best life. He's so in love with her. He's so happy with everything. He's supposed to get a promotion at the bank soon. Things are going great. And that's when you know it's the perfect setup for just disaster. At the grocery store, Phil goes down the candy aisle. He's on the phone with Laurie, his girlfriend, and was like, hey, what kind of chocolate do you want? And at the end of the aisle is this little boy screaming his head off. And the mother, who just doesn't give a damn, doesn't acknowledge him, doesn't do anything about it. And there's just so many people in this aisle just watching, just frozen, like, what is going on? Why isn't anyone doing anything? The store manager came and was like, hey, could you leave maybe? And got no response. And then it was just this really bizarre encounter. And she just wants to get some sour candy. And Phil openly accepts a piece of sour candy from this kid. And oh my goodness, does it all begin from there. This book, not only does it have a car crash scene like right after, which is an actual like fear of mine. I have car anxiety, so I was like, oh goodness grief. But it's just like so eerie, and the fear of losing complete control over your life and just everything shifting in a moment, and that feeling like you're going crazy and mad. Oh my god, it was so good. It's so good, and the reason I had to tell you guys about it, even though it's technically not read in May, is because it's so good. If you like horror and you can you like novellas, this was wrapped up so well. Keilan Patrick Burke, hats off to you, man. Once again, you've done it. This is my 3rd book from him. I'm so excited to read more. He's got such an extensive library. I'm excited. I just had to throw that out there because I just recently finished it. I wanted to talk about it. So good. Alright, that's it for me though. Those are all the books that I read and partially read in the month of May. Hopefully in June I will start finishing books. I'll get back on like, oh, I can finish a book and like that's good for me. I don't know what's going on, guys. I gotta work on it though. I gotta do something about it. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. How was your reading month for May? Let me know down below. I'd be curious to hear. So yeah, that is it. I hope you guys have a great reading month in June. I know, I'm really excited for a lot of the books I'm gonna read. So I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye!